and welcome back to another episode of Dr. in a Bikini. Get ready with me in my hotel room edition. I am starting first, literally rolling out of bed. I'll figure out this hair situation in a second, but I'm going to start with my electrolytes. I packed these on the road. It's actually one of my main tips today that I'm going to talk about as far as ways that I stay on track on the road, some of my favorite things to do, some things admittedly that I have not done. So yeah, this is one of the things. I actually give this to the dancers. Oh my gosh, where is it? There we go. The Ultima. I love the pina colada flavor, but I also, when I was deep in prep, I really liked the blue raspberry flavor because I feel like it reminded me of like a movie theater icy. So whenever Connor and I would go on dates, it made me feel a little less sad if I put that in my water. But hello, I hope everyone's doing good today. It's been a fun week. It's been a long week. Very eventful week. I have some stories and I have some questions to go through from listeners, so I'm gonna go over those too. But first I'm gonna figure out this hair situation. And also, if you're watching on YouTube, can you help me? Why is it that there's always one or two of these like hair rollers in the back that comes out? No matter how I roll it, always comes out, and I find like two little wads underneath me, and then it's just I end up having to use heat the next morning anyways, so it kind of defeats the purpose. But the other ones seem to be, they understand the assignment okay. But yeah, so today's episode, I'm for sure going to talk about, like I said, some tips on how I stay on track on the road. I'm going to go into some of the questions which were about life on the road. And I did have a question from one of my friends who's a competitor too. She's super sweet. She wanted to know basically how to stay on track in your first off season after competing for your first time. She had a few really good questions too, so I'm gonna go over those. And what is happening with my hair? This is not okay. Shannon? Okay, I was like, I had one job, and that was to make sure everything was in here, and I thought I forgot my brush. And I was like, you had one job. Oh no, this is so, wow, I'm really glad I'm documenting this on camera. So good. That's okay, you know, at least y'all are gonna see that it's a process, right? Not that I am a beauty specialist by any means, but you know, we're gonna make do. Let's go into the first story time. Okay, so this one's lighthearted, and then I'll share kind of like a funny, I guess it's funny. The picture's funny, so I'll have to share the picture if you guys want. But first, I will say, like, on a lighthearted spiritual note, because you know that I always like to share those. You're probably like, why is she curling that piece? I swear. So you know how, like, in the front, we have, like, certain frames we need, right? And I don't think the curlers ever get it right. So, again, one more time, if you're in the comments and you do these rollers, overnight rollers every day, and you love how they turn out, and 100% of the time you never have to make adjustments, please let me know, because sometimes I'll do the exact same thing and it turns out flags, fire, love it. Other times, like this morning on camera, it's like, ooh, hope you made time to use that flat iron, girl, ooh. So yeah, okay, story time. Oh my gosh, where was I going with that? So this is what happens when I document on video and get ready and talk at the same time. So you're in for a wild ride, my friends, especially first thing in the morning, pre-coffee, oh my God. Spiritual things, that's where I was starting off. So I will say I don't want to say a hard day, because I almost feel guilty if I say, I know it sounds funny, but I almost feel guilty with this experience if I ever admit that I have a hard day or a low day. You know, I'm sure some of you can relate. It's like, especially when you feel like what you're going through is not necessarily like anything super troublesome. So, but I also, if I were speaking to myself like a friend, I would say, you're okay to feel how you feel. Don't invalidate your experiences. So I will say I kind of had like, ironically, I had a day where I felt like I wasn't doing enough. Like I thought I was maybe not making the most of my time, or, you know, not exploring enough, not doing enough business stuff, just good old fashioned classic Shannon let's be super hard on ourselves for no reason, even though you're literally doing all the things right now. But internally, I'm like, I can do more. So I was having a really tough day because I just felt like I needed to have all the answers between, my future, what's after tour, and mind you, perspective here. We're not even 3 weeks into tour. So Shannon needs to calm down because that's not a fair expectation to put upon ourselves. So I had a little tarot reading with myself in the morning. And it was just, okay, look at this. If you're on camera, what is that? Like, what did I do wrong? And it's right in the front of my face. It's terrible. Oh my gosh. Like I said, wonderful day for me to be doing this on camera because it's usually not this bad. But today, giving you content, I won't go into the entire reading, but you know how sometimes you have those moments of truth? It's just like you heard something you needed to hear and it made you cry. It was one of those like weight off my shoulders moments because I really felt like I was getting the reassurance I needed and just permission to play. And that was part of the inspiration behind today's episode because I think sometimes we just forget that and we need to give ourselves more permission to play. Okay, I'm gonna come back to this hair situation because it's one of those days. I can feel it. It's making me a little spicy right now, and I'm not trying to deal with it. Especially, we're gonna circle back, okay? So bear with me. Let's go ahead and go into really quick what I'm using. So if you are on my YouTube, I already did a little quick cleanse before I jumped on the camera this morning, just because I like to feel nice and moisturized and awake. So I did use my Glow Recipe avocado cleanser. I got this in like one of those little gift packages on Sephora in the store for Christmas. It was really cute. So I really liked these Glow watermelon drops. So they're watermelon niacinamide dew drops from the Glow Recipe. I got the mini. I went back and I got a full size while we were on tour, but it came with this guy, the avocado cleanser, the niacinamide drops. It has a toner, some eye cream, and a little texture. I'm trying to show you here. Strawberry Smooth, BHA and AHA. Oh no, don't come after me. I'm saying this on camera. Salicylic serum. I'm like, I have no excuse because there's an esthetician in the family, but sometimes it do be like that. Here is I hope I'm not shouting. Here is the SPF little glow stick, which I really like actually, because sometimes you just don't want to get all that on your hands, So I don't really do a whole lot of foundation, but I am a big skincare junkie, so you'll see some of the stuff that I like to use. And I lied. This hair, watching in the camera, it's got to get addressed right now. So you're just gonna go with me on a little ride here. Okay, while I am dealing with the Hot Mess Hair Express, let's go into some of the questions. So the first one I got, it was pretty plain and simple. How is it sleeping on the bus? I'm gonna start there because that's the funny story. So I try and be as truthful but respectful and polite on this podcast as I can. I'm just gonna share what happened here because I'm still a little in my feelings. It's me trying to be respectful. I'm still a little in my feelings because I understand why the change needed to happen, okay? So I'm on a great bus. I love my bus. Love the people. We will be having an addition to the tour. So we have Joey and Jenna coming back on the tour. Well, when that happens, we need to make space on the bus, right? I get that. 1 + 1 = 2. Math. Well, because I am low man on the totem pole, and I am allegedly 5'3". Apparently I grew. After competing, I grew. I'm now 5'3.5". I don't know what to do with life. I've been 5'2.5" since 7th grade, but now I'm 5'3.5". So thank you, vegetables, I guess. So because I am my general size and I'm new on the totem pole, it was voted that not voted, I should say it was stated by somebody in charge on the bus, that my bus gets converted from like the nice to spacious, because we all had like condo style bunks, meaning it was one on top of the other. That was so nice, let me tell you. Now, my area, it got converted to 3, which again, I feel so bad complaining because this is the conditions of like the other bus, both buses, okay? So I understand I'm being a little diva-like right now, but you know, when you have something and then it gets taken away. So that was like essentially my little bubble when we were on the bus, if I needed some quiet time, because I am an extroverted introvert, so I do need to recharge. I love to recharge, and I like some quiet time. I need quiet time. So whenever it was time for me to like, you know, call my husband, or maybe I wanted to do some reading or some podcast things, I would just kind of go in my bunk, draw the curtain, put the light on, and then you could sit up in bed. Girl, I now live in a coffin. I wish I could say I was exaggerating. The only way for me to be in my bunk is to be completely horizontal and like mouth out towards like the hallway, okay? Like the little between the bunks. And between the bunks, you've got like 2 feet. Okay, so I could reach out and I could tap the person in front of me like, good morning. Oh, aggressive, Shannon. Sorry, I like punched the window. And then behind me is the suite. So Danny, Pasha, and their little one Nikita are right behind me. So I was living the high life. I had some space. I was able to like sit up in bed and not bonk my head. Oh my God, it got changed. And that's not the part I'm salty about, not the part that it's like a temporary change. I overheard that apparently the plan is to keep the bunk that way forever, to make room for bags and stuff. So we all have like what's called a junk bunk on the bus. Well, now this person in charge is like, well, I want to have 2 junk bunks. So essentially, I may potentially be raising conflict, which I'm not looking forward to. I don't mind conflict, but like I said, I recognize that I'm low man on the totem pole here. So I'm like anticipating backlash for asking to not be claustrophobic. So to paint you the picture, my first night sleeping, this is like the funny part. I sent a picture of myself to Connor in the bunk. I look like a troll in like a little hole. I'm all bent over and I look pissed because I think I've told y'all on the podcast, ever since our honeymoon, I am claustrophobic. Ever since I got stuck in that bathroom, every elevator ride, and of course, y'all heard on the last week's episode, I got stuck in the elevator. It literally fell. So I am a newly added claustrophobic person. So if my words aren't smooth, by the way, I'm not kidding you when I said I jumped out of bed and I have not had coffee, so bear with me. So I sent Connor a picture and I was texting him and I was like, oh my God, I have to make a decision. He goes, what are you talking about? I was like, I literally, because I was laying on my stomach to try and like not focus on the fact that it's wooden and it literally looks like a coffin, which was sending me through the roof anxiety wise because it looked like I was dead. I was like, I can't look at the bed. This freaks me out. So I rolled on my stomach and I had my head out towards like the little open area and I'm laying diagonally so that way I can like breathe. And I don't know how everyone else does it. Like I said, I feel so dramatic, but it was change, right? We all know how we feel about change. Sometimes it's a little hard. And all of a sudden, like I said, I feel so guilty outing people on here because it's a podcast, but I'm across from the grandma on the bus, okay? She was blowing up a storm and snoring. So like snoring is one thing, it's like kind of muffled by the curtain. No, my head being in like the alleyway area, not only was I like exposed to like the symphonies of snores, it was like warfare, okay? I don't know what she ate, but it happens now every single night. I'm not even kidding you, I wish I was. So she snores it up and blows it up, and you can smell it if your curtain is open, just because I'm literally level with her. Anyone else on the bus, probably not, but my bed is 2 feet away from her bed, so like I smell it, I hear it. So I had to make the choice of just committing to the claustrophobia and letting the curtain be completely drawn and just staring at the wooden walls. And it's so nice. The point being, this person asked me, how is sleeping on the bus? And I'll be honest, right now, been better, Carrie Ann, been better. If you understand the reference, then clearly you watched Dancing with the Stars this last season. Okay, I might have to give up on the hair because this is taking way too long. So I will figure that out later. Let's move on to the next question and my next favorite part in my skincare routine. How is it working with Gleb? That's very specific. That was from Beth143. Gleb is super sweet. I think I said on here, I don't remember if I did or not, but he high-key, low-key is psychic. He knew my birthday, like to the day. Guessed it within 60 seconds of meeting me. Literally all I said was, hey, what's that astrology tattoo on your side? And he goes, Virgo. I was like, you're a Virgo? He goes, no, you're a Virgo. And I'm like, sir? I am a Virgo, how'd you know? And he literally knew my birthday to the date, which is August 31st. So even weirder because most people forget like which months without doing the little knuckle thing, what's 30 and what's 31st. So I was floored. I was like, how did you Google me? You for sure Googled me. There's no way. And he's like, no, I just got a feeling. It was my grandpa's birthday. And I was like, oh, wow. So yeah, he's very like spiritual, I would say. And he's very relaxed. I'd say he's very relaxed, very, very in tune with like being chill. So and it was really cute. Brooks has visited us, oh my gosh, a couple times, and she's also so nice. I met her this week. So beautiful in person, so kind. I didn't like interact with her for like a prolonged period, but really, really nice. So yeah, working with all the celebrities has been really fun. I feel like everyone's really respectful. Everyone's different in their own way. So literally has not been an issue at all. So I appreciate that. Let's see, next question. How is travel like when on the tour? Okay, so in general, travel is really good. Again, I had a little bit of a bone to pick the other day, but it had really good intent behind it, so I don't want to complain. Long story short, usually if we're in one city for one day, we typically don't have a hotel room. We just have the bus. There have been some exceptions to that, like if it's a casino, then typically, like we were at a casino for a day and then we were granted like day rooms, and I was so shocked. But I totally didn't pick up on that, so I lugged all of my luggage to the room because I was like, oh, hotel equals sleep. No, sometimes hotel means day room. So, which that's like a really luxurious problem to have. So, but for when we go from a city, so let's say, I couldn't tell you without the list in front of me, but let's say we were in New Jersey for one day. So then we went from New Jersey to New York. We were just on the bus overnight because we were there just for a day. And then when we wake up in the new city the next day, basically the tour manager will ask us, hey, who wants to get woken up to go to the hotel room? Who wants to keep sleeping? And I was like, day off, I want to keep sleeping. Hell yeah, banana bread. If you don't get the reference, just keep moving along. I got woken up anyway. I was so salty. It was like shaking the curtain, tapping, Shannon, are you awake? Shannon, get up. Shannon, are you awake? And again, usually I really try to be super polite, super respectful. Like, you never know what people are going through. So I really try. This was unfiltered, just woke up Shannon, and it was just like the question, Shannon, are you awake? Are you up? Are you awake? And finally I was like, no! I feel like maybe I didn't bark it, but I felt like I barked it. It was so guttural in response because all I wanted was to sleep. I was so mad. But usually traveling is actually really smooth. It's not a big ordeal. They've got it figured out. So we go between sometimes sleeping on the bus, sometimes sleeping in a hotel. But it's pretty simple. I will say the travel, as far as being someone who's, because I'm not cast, but I'm not crew. It's a weird medium. What I mean by that is like crew, you think of like production, the people setting up, lighting and dealing with all the logistics, and then the cast is like the talent, right? I'm definitely not the talent, but I'm also not the crew. What I mean by that is I literally, my schedule is the cast schedule. So they sleep, I sleep, they eat, I eat, they're in rehearsals, I'm waiting on standby. So when I look at documents, usually I look at cast, meaning like whatever it tells them to do, it's telling me to do, which can get really confusing because sometimes obviously certain things apply to them and certain things don't. So that sometimes is learning, certain things apply to them and me and certain things don't apply to me, but it's not always consistent. So that can be a little confusing, but that just kind of is what it is. For the crew part though, that I was saying that's kind of tough is packing up the room. Like I usually make that part of my little videos that I post, but it doesn't do it justice. Reiterating the size here, someone that's 5'3", I mean, there's a giant road case. Usually the things that I need to unpack, because crew has a job to do, usually get stuck like on top of the road case. So if you ever see me, it usually looks like trying to like jump and reach and lift. And so each day when we travel, we unpack in the new venue and then we repack like a madman, which sometimes can be super smooth. This week was not super smooth. It was usually kind of crazy. So anyways, what's the next question? How has it been getting a routine down in a different city every other day? Ooh, this is a good one. So, and I'll go into this too once I get into like the bigger question that was left for me, like competitor wise. How has it been? I would say it's getting easier because for my people that work on the road, I'm sure sometimes it just feels near impossible to stick to your routine. Some people, they're really good and very highly adaptable, especially if it's like for a short period of time. I will say like it was humbling trying to pack for 3 months and then also trying to get my routine down when my schedule is never the same. And you don't always know until the day before. So we do have like a general, one second. We do have like a general outline of how things are supposed to go. Like let's say, for instance, we were in Phoenix tomorrow and it said we arrived the night before, and then let's say because some changes need to be made now the day before, some like rehearsal things are being added. So before I may have been open from 12 and on, but now if I see that the dancers, if they have rehearsal from 12 to 2, then maybe I'm actually available to them a little bit earlier just in case, because sometimes people want to get into me before their day starts if something is hurting them. I'm going to start with some actual makeup here. So it can be a little tough routine-wise was my point, like trying to figure out time for you. And I think also I had to lift the expectation that just because I'm going to all these places, and I'm sure people who travel on the road regularly are going to say like louder from the back when I say this part, but just because I'm traveling, it does not necessarily mean I will or have to make the time to go explore a whole bunch, because I think I have the best intentions. Like you hear, oh my gosh, you're gonna be in Portland, Maine. That's so cool. You have to go check out, all these landmarks, these museums. Excuse me. Oh my gosh. So yeah, I think you have the best intentions of all these things that you want to do, but I think not being hard on yourself if like everything doesn't get done, and not just travel wise, but like routine wise too. Because I did originally pack, a bunch of protein bars and some protein powders. Well, sometimes I'm not in a place with potable water to wash my protein shaker, which would be fine if I could just use water bottles, but not everywhere is Phoenix, Arizona, where you can find water everywhere. Water bottles, water fountains. So a lot of times, like the water I do have, I kind of have to conserve it because sometimes our bus isn't totally stocked up. Sometimes the hotel, it's like you have to pay to have the water bottles. So it can be kind of tricky even with basic things like sticking to my water because it's not nearly as accessible in a place that you're familiar with. I'm sure there's like a routine in each place, but you gotta understand I'm in most places for 24 hours, max 48 hours. So sometimes I don't realize something was there the entire time until we're literally leaving. And I'm like, oh my gosh, no. But I think just doing the best you can as far as like getting a routine down. So again, I hope it doesn't sound like if Connor were here, he'd be like, stop that. It's not that I'm trying to complain, but I'm just sharing the very real, what's the word? Speed bumps, I guess? Yeah. Because I wouldn't say that they're setbacks at all, but the real speed bumps along the way that can get in the way to getting everything done. So I think changing my expectations was helpful. Going back to, like, for instance, traveling and doing something fun. Because I do think prioritizing fun is also important. So my 2 things in every city is I just need to go find a cup of coffee somewhere, go explore, go get a cup of coffee, and then find a sticker or magnet. Those are my main 2 must-dos. Anything beyond that, it's like, oh wow, extra credit. I don't really have a whole lot of like reservations. I don't really have like things booked. Even on my days off, I mean, just for my own health's sake, I really don't plan a whole bunch because it's a tiring job. So by the time, yesterday was a day off actually, I literally just existed and it was glorious. And then also just making time to do, I guess I can get into this a little bit later because these are also some of my tips for the question that was asked me. So how's it been getting a routine down when you're in a different city every day? Short answer, long, is it's been challenging, but it's doable. And I think it's just you have to set your bare minimum expectations of what you will, no matter what, get done. So that can be, your rest. That can be water, like I said. Like, no matter what, I'm going to be on a mission to find my water. And just keeping it small, because I think if you expect your routine to be 100% what it was at home on the road for 3 months, if that is your reality, you are a superhuman and I applaud you. That is not my reality. It's been the best that I can, and I think you have to give yourself permission that that's all that you can do. It's just the best that you can. So it's been good, but it's been challenging. And let's see. Last one, then I'll go into the prep one. What is it like living on bus with a toddler? I honestly probably get asked this from people every single day and I glaze over it because I don't know, all my mama friends out there, I feel so bad because, babies are gonna cry. Babies are gonna have like their moments, just like us humans and adults have their moments, right? And sometimes when people learned that I was on a family bus, they were like, oh my God, that's great. Like, that's going to be awful. And I'm like, it's really not. I think she's an angel. I think her parents are angels. And I think we need to give babies more grace when it comes to that, because more so the moms, because, you ever see like a mom in Target and they're just trying to like get the one thing for them that they wanted that week, or like maybe that was like the one time they could get out of the house. And then they've got, kids, plural, or even one kid that's having a day, that's having a moment, and they're screaming, they're crying, and everyone at Target looks at them like they stole their baby. Like they are, like, how dare you have the audacity for your child to have emotions? So I think I'm a pretty patient person, so I think it's been just fine. I think she's a beautiful little angel. She's adorable. And sure, maybe sometimes she might like cry a little bit, but it's nothing that's like, oh my gosh. And I literally sleep right there. So, I don't know. I get asked a lot. Like I said, I scroll past it just because I never want anyone to feel like I'm talking about their family, but I have nothing but good things to say. So All right, let's go into the bulk question here. Thank you for hanging on because, like I said, I am not awake yet, not even a little bit, but here we are. Here is the, oh my gosh, Shannon. Okay. So I'm just going to read it verbatim. It says, I think my biggest question right now is about how you intuitively eat in the off season that keeps you on the right track for yourself. And then also, how has that changed over the years from where you started to now? And then she kind of branches off into another question. So I would say how I eat intuitively in the off season. First off, I am so thankful that my coach and I practiced intuitively eating prior to this tour, because I think that would have been really stressful for me. I think anytime it's our first off season, again, something new, it's stressful because all we know is what we've been familiar with for however many weeks or months. So when we go from one extreme to we see all of these pleasing changes, I guess, like it might be easier to be fond of like, oh wow, look at, I'm leaner. Ooh, you can see striations. Ooh, you can see my veins. You know, and it's challenging, don't get me wrong, but I think it can be a bit more satisfying for people. So when it's our first off season, it's like, oh, how in the world am I just supposed to be 100% okay with no emotions at all about all these changes that are happening in my body? And how do I not hyperfixate on food? And I think that's really challenging to do. It takes practice, it takes years. So going into the season, this will be my 4th season. So I've had quite a few different experiments as far as, you know, different peak weeks and different dietary changes, different macros. And last year, my off season, I didn't have really any specific tracking at all. And it was pretty successful, but I would say this off season, for whatever reason, has been the most successful. And it's been the craziest. So I'm not really sure why, but I will say I think part of it is honestly just the stress of the familiar. If something was unknown, like if this was my first time and going on tour, personally for me, just because I know my body's response to stress, I would probably be, you know, hyper fixated a bit more on the changes in my body. I'd probably be a bit more stressed and more anxious, maybe like hyper fixating on food more. But I'm really thankful that I'm not, was my point of that. So I think my major tips is, and it's really not rocket science. I think really less is more. So you'll hear a lot of podcasters say the same things, but I think building around your protein is really the first thing. So let's say if you're like me and you're working on the road, or maybe like food is provided for work function and you did not have the ability to meal prep. Like for me, yes, we have like we have a microwave on the bus, and then we've got like this little warmer thing. It looks like a tortilla warmer. It's not mine. I don't even know what it is, but point being, I'm sure where there's a will, there's a way. We can meal prep, but like I mentioned earlier, meeting myself halfway, I barely have any time to make sure I get sleep right now. And that's just with my work schedule, which sounds nuts, but to put in perspective, let's say noonish, so my day will start as far as being prepared PT wise. I'm on call and I am working. The latest I've worked on a patient was 11:30 at night. So by the time I pack down the room, get onto the bus, get situated, which that's kind of a whole thing too, because you can't use the water on the bus because it's not potable. And if you want to shower, you have to do it at the venue. If you need to brush your teeth, you need to do it with like water on the bus. If you want to wash your face and all that with my actual products, doing that in the venue. Otherwise, if I didn't get time, I literally use my little makeup wipes and then put moisturizer on, which I don't love, but it's something. So that being said, my sleep schedule is super different. I'm going to bed at like 1:30 in the morning. And then I'm really trying to make sure I'm up 8:30, 9 o'clock, which some days is really hard. My body does not want to get up, and sometimes I listen to it. The latest I've ever gotten up was at 10, and I was mortified. I was like, oh my God. So when you do the math and you're layering up for the day, and sometimes when we get up, say if we're on the bus, that it doesn't include the time to like get your luggage from underneath the bus, get into the hotel if we're in a hotel, I need to make sure my room is actually physically set up and unpacked again in this new city. So unless I like for some reason was able to go to bed really early the night before and wake up, I don't always have more than a couple hours to myself. So that means calling loved ones, maybe going to the gym, having quiet time, reading a book. You just kind of have to pick your poison. So anyways, eating intuitively though, I think my point to that was like, I don't always or have not yet figured out how to have the option to meal prep. So these concepts I really have to focus on to keep me kind of on track and successful when you don't always have control over what food is in front of you. So we usually have catering, and I will do a lap of everything first just to see what there is. And then I try and just make the best educated decision that I can. So I look at what proteins there are first. If I see one that's like, you know, in like a whole bunch of sauces or it's got a whole bunch of stuff going on, versus like if I see something that's a bit more predictable in nature with protein, like sometimes there was like a glazed salmon. If there's that for lunch, I usually grab it because I don't bring fish onto the bus. But if I see it at lunch for catering, then I usually try and hop on that because I do like salmon, cod, but usually there's some sort of chicken available almost all the time. So yeah, it's just start with your protein and then build from there. And I'd say you want that to be kind of the bulk. And then even when I'm eating, I literally start with my protein because that does kind of make you feel a bit more full. And I think it helps curb whatever hunger you're having too, because say if you've had a really long day with working and you're like, I can't wait to eat, you might just scarf down all these things because you're hungry based off what looks good, not necessarily what will feel good later. So I recommend starting with your protein and then just keeping your carb portions like according to what you notice your body responds well to, if that makes sense. Because I don't like telling people, oh, you know, you gotta stick low to your carbs, especially if it's the off season. Like you're supposed to be fueling your body. So I think reminding yourself that too when you have a plate in front of you, that food is good, food is fuel. I am meant to ingest this food, and it doesn't take away from your goals, it doesn't make you less than, and expecting that, yeah, your shape is going to look different in the off season, and that's a given. So try not to put so much, you know, emotional responsibility on this food, because really it's just carbs, proteins, and fats at the end of the day. So just focus on your ratios. If you were a macros person, that'd be easier, versus maybe if you were a meal plan person, that might be a little harder. But my suggestion to you would be just replace the portions that you recognize or the portions that you feel like you responded well to, and go off how you feel too. You know, I was talking about this with Gleb because I'm helping him with some fitness stuff. Because he's like, you know, is eating this bad? Is it safe to eat this? Or like, what do you think? And I'm like, well, first off, you're moving your body a lot. And if you're hungry, then listen to your body. And while you're eating, because he was talking about, which a lot of us experience, that like binging behavior where it feels like, oh my gosh, I got off track. So then you find yourself in this like F-it mode of like, well, I've already had this. And my advice to him was, the second you notice some emotional reasoning there, stop. As soon as you notice that you're trying to justify something, or if you're feeling some sort of way about the food in front of you, then just take a break, have some water, go on a walk. Really just try and be as aware as you can. This is my favorite. Sorry, I've stopped like telling you guys what I'm using. This is the Rare Beauty liquid blush. I don't remember. Oh, it's the Encourage shade. So love that. And then before this, I used, oh, I forgot my favorite one. Oh my gosh. This is what happens when I do two things at once. I also like to use the Flawless filter. That's usually the most I'll use. Like typically my daily routine will be this Rare Beauty primer and then those two that I just showed you. But today, for some reason while I was talking, I put foundation on, which I never do. So here we are. But yeah, I told him, I was like, you know, I think the biggest tip that we can apply for ourselves, whether we're competitors in the off season or if we're lifestyle clients or whichever. I think the biggest thing you can do is just pay attention to how things make you feel. And if you feel, satiated, if you feel full, if you feel like your digestion was happy afterwards, if you find that you're not feeling guilty, those are the kinds of things you want to pay attention to versus like reasoning with things, post-meal guilt. If you notice that something is emotionally driven, like you had a stressful week and therefore you think, I deserve this, I want that, this sounds good because of my week, those probably aren't the most healthy conditions to have it. It doesn't mean that you can't have it, but maybe just, all right, I'm not going to eat the entire roll of Chips Ahoy, but sure, I will let myself have 4 of them and I'm not going to feel bad about it. Like at catering, almost every time I grab one of the little mini brownies because it's a little mini brownie, I will say I am going to start bringing it in because I literally have been grabbing it every single time. I'm like, Shannon, this isn't a daily food group. How about we, grab ourselves a treat when we want it, not because it's there. So I would say that's one tip I would say as far as eating intuitively is just eat around your protein, really focus on the core concepts like protein, your hydration, and just doing an emotional checkpoint of how you're doing. I think that's going to make you the most successful with food. And of course, if you don't already know who Celeste Rains Turk is, she does help people with food relationships. So that's also a really good resource to have. Let's see, how has it changed over the years from where I started to now? Yeah, I think, so for me, I was more emotional about it. Like I said before, when something is new and we don't know the changes to expect, and I don't know anything except for the lean bean fight machine I became the first time, I think it was harder and it was easier to feel guilty when leading with intuition of, oh my gosh, I had a burger with my husband here and then we went and had dessert, and then the next morning my friends want to go to brunch because they know that I'm not, in a show anymore, so they want to go do something, and then that day my mom wants to go do this, and then, oh my gosh, well, I want this. Like, wow, it's been like 2 days, and just do what you can. Say if you do have plans and you have a lot of plans, just think what are the smartest choices that you can make, and then again, you're meant to fuel your body with the food, so as you are adding shape in the off season too, just think that that's literally fuel for your muscles to put your muscles to work. Not that you're working out for the food, but you are utilizing the resources that you're providing to your body, if that makes sense. And then the other question was, let's see, what advice would you give to someone who just did their first show and wants to keep competing but have a good balance in the off season? I feel like you really know what you're doing, especially since you're on the road now and you look great now. So, thank you. I would say my biggest advice for someone who just did their first show and wants to keep competing, I think the fact that you want to keep competing, knowing your why for sure, because I think for all of us, there comes a moment where you're like, why am I even doing this? What's the point? Oh my gosh, I feel so tired of this, or oh, I feel like I can't do this, or so I think having a clear why for doing what you're doing, for one, and yeah, I guess we kind of covered it a little bit earlier already, but for having a good balance in the off season, I think maybe my biggest tip on top of what I said is just really keeping track and journaling your experiences and what you're feeling. And also talking about it with people around you, because I think the more we talk about things, the more the people around us understand too. So I don't know if at home everyone's super supportive. I actually did an episode a while back with Connor. I think it was Prepping Your Relationships Part 2, because after my first time competing, and then it happened again, he kind of had a moment of like, so when does this end? And obviously, I couldn't just say never, but we did have to have an honest conversation about my why behind doing what I'm doing. And I had to be very vocal about being thankful for, 'cause some of the changes that he was making with me too, as far as maybe expectations of what Shannon does, or like my normal, right? Because I think before we were fresh in an apartment and we weren't really cooking a lot. we were eating out all the time. So going from that to, I went into this big lifestyle change. And then the next year I'm like, let's do it again. He's like, wait a minute, what do you mean let's do it again? Like, how far are you trying to go here? And I was like, as far as I can go, as long as it takes. So I think having a clear why, having good communication with the people around you, so that way you feel supported in your off season and people understand that it is your normal to like to feel good with your food, like to feel good with your routines. You're not trying, and I think defining that for them too, you're not trying to, look a certain way or seem small or skinny, because I think sometimes people can get concerned of like, oh my gosh, that show gave her body dysmorphia because she's still so concerned about food. Well, no, it's just that lifestyle taught us very valuable tools about how to view food and how to fuel our bodies. And I think some people don't understand that habit goes with us even after the show, and it should. We're meant to have nice whole foods. Hold on, multitasking. I'm trying to put on a lash here, and that is no easy task. For my YouTubers, I'm so sorry, you're getting like a gaping view of okay, one down, one to go. I think that helps success-wise, because if you feel supported by your people, then on the low days, they understand, and then there won't be these expectations of you to do all these things, because they understand you and they understand your why. So I think that's important just as much as understanding it for yourself. And honestly, giving yourself, like I said earlier with my tarot reading, giving yourself permission to play. Give yourself permission to loosen the reins a bit, experience, have fun, take diet breaks. I think it's healthy. I think for me, if possible, I don't know if I will ever track in the off season ever again, because it gives me such a recharge to then tighten the reins. And let me be clear on that too. I don't stray away super far. So my off-season tracking, it doesn't really look super different as far as the types of foods. Like, I'm not trying all sorts of like new foods every day, heavily, I don't know, like I'm not eating a whole bunch of comfort foods all the time. Like, I actually genuinely like having chicken and rice. I love sweet potatoes. I love fruits. I love, honestly, I literally the other day I did snack on some rice cakes, which I never thought I would do in the off season, because you get a little sick of those. But I think just sticking to the things that make you feel good, make you happy, I think is very reasonable. And then communicating that too. If anybody has anything to say about it, just say, honestly, my body just responds so well to this. My digestion feels better. And if people don't understand that, people don't understand that. But yeah, I hope that helps, because I think it really is more simple than you think. It's just sticking to the basics, knowing your why, knowing what works for you and what doesn't. And if you don't know yet, just journal those things. Hey, I had this on my plate today. This is how I felt after, physically and emotionally. I went and did this with this person. It made me feel XYZ way. And just really being in tune with that, because the more on the same page you are with yourself, and the more successful you are for other seasons. So I hope that's helpful. I'm looking at the time, and speaking of not having a whole lot of time, I do have to repack my luggage and go downstairs and load everything on the bus, and then find some food. So I'm gonna sign off of here. My hair is just gonna have to be what it is today. Sometimes I do be like that. But thank you for tuning in for my video. Thank you for being patient with my sleepy words. I appreciate you. And any questions that you have, any fun stories that you want to share, make sure to send it to Dr. in a Bikini podcast. And if you don't already, make sure to follow all of the shenanigans on Instagram, or Dr. in Bikini. It comes on the search engine too. And then Dr. in Bikini on all other platforms. And I appreciate you for taking the time to share these episodes and tag me. I appreciate it more than you know. And for those of you sending me screenshots of your ratings too, that really does help me quite a bit. So thank you so much for listening. I hope that you enjoyed today's content, and I will talk to y'all later. Bye, guys.